And we're back. Guys, it's finally draft week. Let's go. I've been waiting so long for this. It's my favorite time of the year, really. Truly is. I love the draft so much. Only a few days away from the first round, and then, day 2, day 3. It's all so exciting. I mean, I've been doing a lot of film watching recently, taking notes on guys, trying to get, you can't watch everyone, but I'm just trying to at least get a little bit of eyes on some of the later round guys to at least have a note or two on them. Some guys I have crazy notes on that I watched a lot of, but yeah, super excited. We're going to today, talk about why I think, you need to get 2 big contributors out of this draft class, specifically at 21 and 55. There could be trade up and, that could change things up, but there's a multitude of reasons for that. Realistically, that I want to talk about, get into it, why there's people I'd rather avoid in the draft that I don't think are going to be day 1 contributors, plus, they need a lot of development. And then there's some people that are exceptions to the rules. I think Amarius Mims would be an exception to the rule for me. I'd be okay if we drafted him. I think it'd be a good pick, but he probably wouldn't play too much in year 1 unless injury, which, with Armstead is probably pretty likely anyway. So, yeah, we'll really dig into it deep once, more people get in here. But yeah, and then I have, and then on Wednesday, I'm going to do, the day before the draft, I'm going to do a final prediction mock. I've kind of, found some names. I'm kind of stuck on some names at certain spots, certain rounds. But when it comes to 21 and 55, I kind of have 5-6 names. I'm still kind of whittling it down to, seeing what more information comes out. Hey, Roger's watching from the Bahamas. Nice. I wish I was you. Wish I could watch the draft from the Bahamas. That'd be sick. But thanks for watching. We're gonna talk the draft today. Yeah, I'm gonna do a final prediction mock. I have a few names. I know today was I think Rosenhaus said it. And I think there were some other reports. The Dolphins are coming down to Verse. Latu, he's there, which I don't think Latu's gonna be there. I do think Jared Verse is pretty likely right now of the edges. If anyone was gonna be there at 21, it would be Verse most likely. I see Barton. And probably out of the Dolphins fans that I've seen that, talk the draft, I'm probably the highest on Graham Barton. I'm a huge Graham Barton fan. But he's probably the only interior guy, the interior only guy that I would take at 21 personally, because I have him as a top 20 player in the class. So I think it's pretty good value, and I wouldn't be mad about it. But there's also, tackles that could play interior year 1 and then bump out to tackle later on. That would be very interesting. If guys like Fatanu fell, but... And then who was the other name? Oh yeah, they kept throwing around Xavier Worthy. I don't know if I'm on that train. I maybe in a trade back. I like Xavier Worthy, but to me, I have a 2nd round grade on him, so first round would be a reach, and his skill set's a little bit redundant. If he was a super stud, if I had him graded as a Waddle level, yeah, I would take him at 21. But I don't have him graded that highly, so I wouldn't take him there. I think some of the stuff's been a smokescreen, like Jatavion Sanders. I keep seeing that they're interested in Jatavion Sanders. For me, I have Jatavion as a 3rd round player. I think Ben Sinnott is the only 2nd round tight end. I just feel there's been too much chatter about it, and I feel the Dolphins with McDaniel have been pretty tight-lipped at not, giving away who they're targeting. So to me, it feels like it's a smokescreen. I'd love to hear broadly those 5 to 6 names. Yeah. So to me, and I'm just the guys that unless someone, falls surprisingly, like a Fatanu or a Fuaga, I think those are the outside chance. For me, it's any of the 3 edges. So probably not Dallas Turner, but Latu or Verse. And I'd only think Latu would get there if it's the injury stuff. So mainly Jared Verse. Johnny Newton. I've seen reports that he might not even go in the 1st round, which is surprising to me. That could also be some smokescreen. But if they were going to take a D tackle, I think Newton would be there, and I think he's the one they would consider. I think the only receiver they would consider at 21 is Brian Thomas Jr. And for what I've seen recently, he's going to go in that kind of range. He could go 19, 20 as well, but I think he could be there around 21. He was the receiver that I kind of have them considering. And this is just me predicting what they're going to do. It's not exactly what I would do. I think Graham Barton's the only interior guy. That's the other name. And then if they were going to go DB, I have Cooper DeJean in the conversation. And then Amarius Mims for the tackles, because I think out of the tackles, Mims has the likeliest chance to fall. And I do think Greer would be interested because they would kind of look at him as it's lying week. Honestly, the most information that comes out usually true is the day of the draft, surprisingly. So if you hear information the day of the draft, there's usually a little bit of truth to it. And a lot of these is also just guessing. So there could be truth to people saying they really like Jared Verse because they probably do like Jared Verse, but we don't know. That's who they're gonna end up going with. Like, I have a few names written down. Like, I think in the later rounds, I have guys like, a Luke McCaffrey. I might guess in the 6th, or I might guess Jordan Whittington in with the later 6th or the 7th. But I'm not. I'm a little undecided with that right now. Kind of depends if I decide to go in a different direction at those picks. But I definitely have names that I think the Dolphins are gonna like. But yeah, and then I think one of the big reasons I'm kind of thinking with the title of what the stream is, the Dolphins going, I think they need to get 2 day 1 contributors. I'm kind of always that way anyways. I like going after guys that have higher floors. Also with a little bit of ceiling. Like, I understand, you going after like athletic profiles. Like there's guys at 21 that I think have a chance of being the pick, but I don't think they will. Plus, I wouldn't do it, is Tyler Guyton and Chop Robinson. I don't think you get anything out of them in year 1. I just feel like the Dolphins are very close. They're very close to being one of those top teams. And they haven't really had, other than Achane, over the last 2 years, they haven't had really a rookie or young guy contributing out of the past 2 draft classes other than Devon Achane. And then a couple undrafted guys that have contributed. But no one like top tier. After the 2021 class, if you look at the Dolphins, that's why I think they're going to pay all of Waddle, Holland, and Phillips. Like, I know that the cap situation has not looked too good. But the reason I think they're going to pay all of them is the reason like they let Wilkins and Hunt go is because they had to pay the 2021 class. And the reason you might think, oh, they might not pay someone in the 2021 class, they got to pay someone from the 2022 or 23. They don't really have to pay anyone huge money from those classes. So, like, you need to start hitting on some of these picks. It's how you build your team is through the draft. So, to me, and like this is their first year you've had a first round pick in 2 years, and you've only had 1 second round pick in the last 2 years. And I do still have faith in Cam Smith though. So, I do think that one can work out. But I think you got to start getting some major contributors. That's why I'm kind of avoiding, maybe like you want to take for need, but not reach for need. So if it becomes best player available, that's why there's exceptions. Like if best player available is clearly someone who might not contribute a ton in year 1, but they're clearly better than a guy at a position in need, then you take the best player available. But if it's close and you're like if you have, let's see. Because like even the edge position is pretty weird too, because they'll contribute early in year 1, but I don't know if they'll contribute a bunch late in year 1 once Chubb and Phillips come back healthy. Plus, if you listen to Greer, they kind of look at it from like a 2 years perspective. That's why I think, these edges are definitely in play because they would contribute early, kind of go away, but then I think, they might move on from Chubb after this next year. So then those guys become big contributors in year 2. That's why I think they're still going to consider tackles that are only tackles like an Amarius Mims that can, play left tackle for the Dolphins after Armstead retires, because you're thinking it isn't a 2 year cycle. But to me, you got to start getting these day 1 contributors that can also contribute down the line. That's why that's why I've always been big on the Graham Barton thing. Is I really like Graham Barton. I just think he's a really good player. He fits in what they want, and I just think he's a plug and play your guard for the next 8 years, pretty much. And and while I don't think it's the greatest premier position value, it's not a bad way to go overall. It wouldn't be my top option, but I do think Barton is like that option. If that's where it ends up going, I'm not mad about it. Plus, I do think another thing I want to talk about is being at 21 is actually like the Dolphins kind of lucked out. If they were going to, not win in the playoffs, 21 was kind of the place to end up. Because if you look at these grades that I think a lot of teams have, it's like the grades are like a lot of first round grades that teams have. It's like in that 15 to 18 range. Non-quarterbacks, and then you look at the quarterbacks that go first round was like 4 or 5. You're gonna end up with about at least 1 or 2 of your first round grades still on the board. So that means, do you want to take one of those first round guys? That's why I don't think they're gonna trade back. The only way they trade back is if someone like blows them away with an offer, I think, which could happen now because you being at 21, the other teams that are behind you probably think, wow, we want to get one of these first round guys that are on our board, so let's try to trade up to that 21 range. Because I think there'll still be people like on the board like that they have first round grades on, at least a couple. Which is why I don't see them trading back. Because if they had a lot there on the board, then they might trade back. But yeah, and then they're in win now mode. So got to hit on these picks that are going to contribute. You look at these other teams they have that are going far in the playoffs. They're having like the Chiefs. They had big rookies contribute on their team. The Lions were huge. the Lions said that they build their O line and then they start taking players at other positions, even if it wasn't the greatest positional value, but they contributed a bunch in year one, like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. They had a bunch of picks early. You got to start hitting on these guys. That's why I'm more of a high floor guy, because these guys are still going to be good way into the league. And you never know if your coaches are going to develop them. But yeah, that's kind of why I'm looking at it. And you really don't have to pay a ton of people in these next 2 years. So hitting on these picks are very, very important for the future as a team, as well as the immediate impact that they'll bring. And to me, I think the priority that they're going to kind of look at this is how I'm guessing the priority is going to be at 21 at least, from like position. I think first is a tackle that can play guard. That would be like priority one, but there's only a few of those in this class, and I think a lot of those guys could be gone. After that, I think it's edge is how they're going to look at it. If they're looking at it's a premier position, in a 2-year cycle, it also helps with the injuries you have right now. So I think it definitely can play a value there. And then I think after that, I think they might value wide receiver more than D tackle. I think even DB they might value more than D tackle. It just seems the way that they've gone through it. And if you look at Weaver's pass from the Ravens, they didn't value D tackle that highly. They thought they could get it out of a rotation and creating it with schemed up pressures, those types of things. And they brought in so many bodies at D tackle. And just the way I've seen people talk about Johnny Newton, I don't know if they're going to take Newton at 21 anymore. But even though I would be all about it, and Byron Murphy's more of like a later option. What's up, guys? Anyone got any questions? Anything I can read? I can't see without my glasses, honestly. But it's like reflection. Yeah, I talked about Jatavion Sanders. I don't believe that smokescreen. I really don't. I mean, they could. I think they could like him, but he's also kind of a project to me. With his skill set, what are the notes I have on Sanders? Let's bring that up. Tight ends, Sanders. Yeah, high upside guy, has a nice athletic profile. He does a great job pushing the seam. He would be a seam threat for the team, and then make some tough catches. And I think McDaniel could have fun with him. Has some good yak, and he's very young, but he doesn't bring much as a blocker. And I think his route tree is limited. His ability as a route runner is a little bit limited. Okay, there the frames are going up now, so that's good. What about Leggett as our first pick? Not necessarily at 21. I think Leggett would be a good option in a trade back. At 21, no. I wouldn't be that mad because I do like Leggett as a player, but I just feel like there's going to be better options on the board. Just thinking about how I have it ranked, it would be impossible because I don't have them ranked in the top 21 players. But I do think in a trade back, if they were in the 30 range, yeah, I'd think Leggett is a really good scheme fit. I made some graphics that I'm gonna have for the draft, but one of the graphics is Miami Dolphins best scheme fit, and I have Leggett on the board. Who's your hot take player to be traded Thursday night? A player in the league traded for a pick? I don't know if I have a hot take. I'm trying to think who would be a random trade target. I know I've seen the Ayuk maybe, but I guess that wouldn't be a hot take. I haven't really thought about it. Thinking about other teams. My guess is no players get traded, to be honest. Heard of the sleeper target in the later rounds for Adisa Isaac, edge from Penn State? Yeah, I don't think he's considered that late round, though, because I thought PFF has him rated pretty highly as an edge. I do have notes on him, though. I have notes on all the edges now. Latu, Turner, Verse. I actually have Latu as my edge 1, Verse as my edge 2, and Turner as my edge 3. I know people might not agree with that. Dak? I don't think Dak's going to get traded. I mean, if that happened, that'd be pretty wild. But that's not what I would guess. At least from because I follow a decent amount of Cowboys fans, and That'd be pretty surprising. But I do have Dallas Turner as my third guy just because I feel like he's more of the project athlete type, but he is a little more developed than Chop. But yeah, where's my Isaac notes? The fuck? Did I not take notes on Adisa Isaac? Dude, I have all these edge listed here and I just don't see it. You have full screen so I can actually read. Wow. Okay, so maybe I don't have my notes on Adisa Isaac, but I can try to remember off the top of my head. I remember him being not as athletic as I would have liked, but he did seem pretty. He was definitely more of a technician than Chop Robinson was. They were a little opposite though. DeJean cannot only improve the secondary system, he's a great punt returner, kick Jones was. Yeah, DeJean would be a very exciting pick in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised if they went in that direction at all. He plays a premier position, would play everywhere in the secondary. They would see him as the Kyle Hamilton for what the Ravens had. He would play significant amount of snaps, so he would be everywhere and special team stuff, which would be huge. How far would you trade down? For me, it's either like the only way I see them trading down is if there's multiple guys on the board with first round grades. If there's multiple guys on the board with first round grades, I would only trade down like a few spots, like to like 24 at most. But if there's no one with first round grades, I'm good trading back many spots, even out of the first round, if you're getting really good value. But for the most part, I would say just trading back like a few spots. But I think once you get past those first round guys, it's a lot of guys with similar values. Addison from the Vikings, they give him a first and second next year to Chargers to get fifth. We must go DT or we are screwed. Bro, I don't think they're gonna go D tackle, at least in the first round. And maybe the second round. I think there's a chance. I wouldn't be mad if they went like the second round D tackles is interesting. I have like a Brandon Dorless. I would love Brandon Dorless. From what I've seen though, I think Byron Murphy feels like he would be gone. From everything I've seen, like people think Byron Murphy might go as the first defensive player in the draft now. Like they're ranging him from like 8 to 18 in that range. So I think Murphy's gonna be gone. And that leaves Johnny Noon. And then there's multiple reports today about Noon might not even have first round grades. And it has a lot to do with like some of the injury concerns. I have Noon as a first rounder personally, so I would be definitely cool with Noon at 21. But outside of Noon, that would be really the only guy. Unless they wanted to go in the Darius Robinson route, which is like a D end and D tackle type of player, a little bit of mix. Yeah, Chris Jenkins wouldn't be bad in the second. He probably goes around that range if I had to guess. I think, Jenkins, Rookie or Horo, Dorless, Braden Fisk. Those would all be considerations. I also think they're going to like guys like Christian Boyd, Dwayne Carter, even later on, if they're there in the fifth round. I really think they'll be looking at those guys. You think we should take wide receiver with our fifth? I think if you don't go wide receiver in the first and second, I'd be all over wide receiver with your fifth or either that like early sixth. Like right now with my guesses, I have like Christian Boyd with who I think I'm going to go with in the fifth for the Dolphins in my predictive mock on Wednesday. But in the sixth, I have a bunch of receivers that I'm kind of guessing. I think they could also go like I think they would be interested in guys like in that range because I think players are going to fall a little farther than expected just because how stacked that class is. But I think Luke McCaffrey is someone to know. Players like Anais Smith, I just see McDaniel kind of falling in love with a player like him. Super late, even later, like a Casey Washington. I really like him as like a late round guy. Taj Washington and Anthony Gold. Definitely players to know. I feel like they might like Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint just because he brings a lot as a blocker and a lot of physicality, and he would bring size. He doesn't really fit like the speed and route running that I like, but if you're getting him in the fifth, I feel like they would like him. A Jordan Whittington, even later than that, like a sixth or a seventh from Texas. he kind of he's like a poor man's Juwan Jennings from the Niners. Uh, Jacob Cowing, yeah, I didn't say Cowing because I think Cowing's probably going to go in the fourth if I had to guess. But I could see him falling. If Cowing's there in the fifth, I'm all over it. I love Cowing. He's one of my favorite players in this draft class. Him and Malik Washington, kind of those undersized type receivers. Very, very exciting to watch. Would be all over Jacob Cowing. He'd probably be my highest graded player in the fifth if he was there, if I had to guess. Even players like Jalen Coker, exciting guy from Holy Cross. This class is absolutely stacked, but that's why I'm kind of okay. Like, if they want to go with a receiver in the first two rounds, I'm all over it because I love this class. But if they do wait on it, I do think they can still find someone who would be the third best receiver in the Dolphins, because you're not going to get anyone in this class who's better than Tyreek or Waddle. Obviously, that's not what you're looking for, at least right away. And then you're looking for a third receiver, potentially in the third, second round, or first and second, maybe the third if you trade back. But I think you can still, in the fifth round of this class, find someone who would be the third best receiver on the Dolphins. That's how stacked I think it is. And I think, they could get even more than two contributors, but this class is important to hit on it just because the timing of it, they haven't had a first round pick. It's so long, so that's why I don't think they're going to trade back. If they do trade back, it wouldn't be many spots. That's just my guess. Just feeling it out from how they've talked in the interviews, Greer, and how excited McDaniel is to have a first round pick. That's why I also think it could be something random, like an offensive player. And also, like, I saw a report that Fatanu he was medically flagged. I hope so. Fatanu there at 21. I'll run to this podium. I don't care what it is. I'm all over it. I think safety in the fifth, definitely a possibility. I think safety is another position they're heavily considering, even possibly in the second. I think that's a direction they could easily go. I feel like that's kind of the underrated position out of like the top what people are thinking they'll go, because everyone's thinking O-line, D-line, edge. They're thinking the trenches, and then if they're not thinking trenches, they're thinking receiver. I think safety is that, because this class is pretty exciting. I feel like I don't have a good grasp on where these guys are going to go in this draft. Like, I like a lot of guys, but I could see them going way later because they're a lot of very different players. I just don't know who's going to be there in the fifth, but there's some names that I like. I did the video on Dadrian Taylor-Temerson. It wouldn't surprise me if he went day 2, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was there in the fifth round. Because he's the type of player that could go really anywhere. Because I feel like the league values safety very weirdly every single year. It's one of the hardest positions, I think, to predict. Because some players just end up falling. And I would be all over that. I think once you get to like day 3, you're going to see them going after like D tackles, safeties, receivers, whichever ones they didn't get on day 1 or day 2. So I think they're going to get an O-line with one of their first 2 picks. And then potentially an edge as well. And then, or maybe just both of those, and then they'll go after the other positions, because I think you can still find some guys that are pretty valuable. I also think they could go after like a tight end that played receiver initially, because apparently they love to do that. They love to go after these wide receivers. Like Tanner Connor is an undrafted guy in McDaniel's first year. Last year they drafted Elijah Higgins. Seems like they're really trying to get a tight end that has receiver skills, that's athletic with the ball in their hands. I think they could go, or like a bigger body guy, like a Jordan Whittington's kind of a big slot guy. Juwan Jennings vibes. I really think they could go after him in like the 6th or 7th. I could see him being there. Because a lot of people have these Texas guys going to the Dolphins. Wouldn't be surprising if Jordan Whittington is the Dolphins' Texas guy that they end up with, because he would be much later on in the draft. Oh, shit. I really do think like Jared Verse could be the pick for the Dolphins. Like, we'll look at a quick Jared Verse clip here. Definitely brings a lot of power with his hands. He's really heavy-handed, good leverage player. He's kind of like the mix in this class that I feel like is really well-rounded, has enough athleticism to his game. He really knows how to soften the edge, set things up, and then use that speed to power. That's kind of, his go-to, where he has some moves in his bag as well, which I think is important, which I like about his game. Like, he's not as advanced as Latu, but he's definitely more advanced than like Turner and Chop. But yeah, he's definitely a fun one that I would not be mad about, and I could see him being there. I could see, I think he goes around that range, maybe a few picks before. Just looking at this class, the class is weird because there's a lot of offensive players going early. Like it's gonna be a bunch of quarterbacks in the top 10, probably 4 in the top 10. There's gonna be probably 3 receivers in the top 10 with an O lineman, and then you might not see the first defensive player go off the board until maybe the 8th pick. But even then, that could go in an offensive direction. So it's definitely interesting. See how far these defensive players fall. There's a bunch of smoke going around, but I stopped believing it all until I just kind of go off what my gut tells me the Dolphins would like. I think offense, it's pretty easy to see what they like. We've now had McDaniel coaching the team it's going into his 3rd year. He's starting to build some tendencies. You can also look at the Niners branch and players they've brought in. It's pretty clear they have a type when it comes to certain positions on the O line, receiver, running backs. Who's your? I'm going to hurl pick. Patrick Paul. If they take Patrick Paul at 21, because I see Patrick Paul might go in the 1st round now, which I hope he's gone by 50. I don't even want him at 55. I would still be pretty upset. And I don't even think he's that bad. Like we need some mean dogs. I would be down for some dogs. I mean, that's why I kind of like when we get O-line with 1 and 2, I wouldn't be mad. Go if you say one of the O-line fell to you like a Fatanu and you take Fatanu, and then in a second Christian Haynes falls to you, take them both. They could be your 2 starting guards this year. Then Haynes is starting right guard of the future, and then Fatanu is your left tackle of the future. I would not be mad about that at all. That's why, I mean, there's some dog like Jared Verse. He's a dog. He's a mean dog. I think Graham Barton's a dog. I love getting some dog. Like he has a nasty streak he plays with, and he's also a great athlete. Like I know some people see like they would be upset with that, but also I just like taking really good football players, and yeah, I'm not on Xavier Worthy. Like I like when I watch Xavier Worthy's film, I like him. I think he's a solid player. He's good. I have a 2nd round grade on him. But to me, if you're gonna kind of really go after Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle type to complement, they need to be on that level. To me, I don't want to compare Worthy to like John Ross, because I think Worthy is definitely a better route runner, better overall than John Ross, and I think he'll be a solid player in the NFL. It's just I'm not taking that at 21 when it's also kind of redundant with what you have. It has to be like a super add-on. McDaniel gets the veto power in the 1st round pick. It wouldn't surprise me if he's just like, guys, we're taking offense. I don't care. I haven't had a 1st round pick. We are going after one of the O linemen I love, or we're going to take a receiver. But the only receiver I would take is Brian Thomas Jr. Yes, Worthy is light. And honestly, to me, you can be undersized and still be a dog. Like, there's some dogs that are undersized and play physical, but you got to play bigger than your size for me to really think you're going to be good at the next level. And I don't think Worthy plays that big. I will give him credit, though. Worthy did more dirty work for the Texas offense than Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell was kind of the soft one between them. So I will give Worthy that credit. He did go out there and at least try to block. But my main issue is with his hands. Like he tracks the ball well. Like he tracks the deep ball well, but he has too many drops. And to me, I don't think that's what this offense needs. I think Worthy will go probably early 2nd in this class, if I had to guess. And he'll probably be pretty successful. He's a pretty good route runner. He's more than just speed. Give him that credit. But to me, for the Dolphins specifically, I'm not on that board. Like I would say I'm not on that train. Other than Brian Thomas Jr., I probably wouldn't take any other receivers at 21. I would take like Leggett or Ladd McConkey in a trade back scenario, but that's only in a trade back, and you have to trade back like not just a little bit, like probably like 10 or so picks or more. And then, but outside of that, I'm probably just targeting some line or edge defenders. And then the other guys I don't like that you guys probably know is like Tyler Guyton, Patrick Paul. Not fans, super raw players. Need a lot. They're not going to start year 1 for the Dolphins either. Chop Robinson, I think, if you're going to take an edge, you need someone that can play right away because the injuries, I don't think Chop could play right away. And he has a lot of work to be done to him. And so he's kind of a boomer bust player to me. I do feel better about Chop than the 2 linemen I named, but I still probably wouldn't go in that direction. And I also, the other offensive weapon I would take at 21 is Brock Bowers, but I don't think he's going to be there either. But I'm taking players that are contributing right away. Like if Latu falls there, take him. He'll contribute right away while they're injured, and then they might come back. You can have a 4-man rotation. It'll be fine, and then he'll be a stud down the line. There's some injury concerns, but that guy is really good. And I think I have Latu. Let me see. I think I have him rated as... Yeah, Latu is my first defender on this board, on my big board, which people can see on the day of the draft. I'll have it, posted up and stuff. And it's just the top, 30. I kind of stopped ranking it after 30. I have an idea of who would be next, but that's kind of all I could fit on the graphic. Would you take Devondre Sweat in the third? No. Well, the Dolphins don't even have a third-round pick, but I would wait till... Honestly, I don't even want to draft him. I feel like there's just too many concerns. If it was just one of the concerns, then I would take the chance on day 3 somewhere, I guess with round 5. But to me, there's the concern of, the DWI. That just shows there's a DWI, which shows that he doesn't care for football. Then there's the reports that he doesn't care for football, which also has to do for him showing up overweight. Apparently, he showed up 400 pounds at one of the training camps one year. There's just too many things that I've heard where I'm just kind of out on it. Yeah, if it was he had some troubles, but he clearly loves football and wants to work it out, then yeah, I'd take the chance. But to me, I'm not on it. Latu versus Newton and Murphy or O-line. Yeah, I would throw, I know you might not agree, but I'd probably throw, if we're going to throw a weapon in there, throwing Brian Thomas Jr., but that's probably it. But outside of I'd be all over that. I've seen some Dolphins fans aren't super high on Murphy. I don't even really need to talk about it because Byron Murphy's not going to be there from everything I've seen. Murphy's going to be gone. But that guy is very, very good. I know Dolphins fans really like Johnny Newton, but I think Murphy's kind of up there with him, even though I probably Newton rating slightly higher, but they're both very good players and would be plug-and-play starters for this team right away. And then Latu are versus my top 2 edges. I'd be all over that. If either fall to 21, I feel like those end up being the pick for the Dolphins. Will it happen? I think there's a decent chance Verse falls to them, so we'll see. And then O-line. There's just so many O-line names that I like Joe Alt, Lacey Fuaga, Amarius Mims, J.C. Latham, Olu Fashanu, Troy Fatanu, and Graham Barton. Graham Barton will probably be there. But out of even the other guys, that's a lot of O-linemen to go before pick 21 when you also consider 4 quarterbacks are going to go and probably 3 or 4 receivers and a tight end. And that's not even talking about defensive players. I feel like one of the... I wouldn't be surprised if one of those O-linemen fall. Especially one of the guys, maybe Latham. I think Mims would actually, I think, has a decent chance of being there. And then maybe one of the guys like Fuaga, Fatanu, maybe. All it takes is, one team to mess up the draft and throw off everyone's strategy. Yeah, I have, in the list of names I've written down, I have, for who I think they might take at 55, for my predictive mock on Wednesday, I have Brandon Dorless as a possibility. I think he's my favorite D tackle on day 2 to watch. I really enjoy watching Brandon Dorless's film. That guy is disruptive. Oh, you used the word disruptive. That's why I was thinking of disruptive. But that does fit his playstyle. I really like Brandon Dorless. I have him highlighted here too. If I highlighted their names on my list, in Aqua, that means I feel like they're good Dolphins fits. He would be really fun. How about Walter Rouse as a late round pick? Yeah, I saw someone. Where was that mock today on Twitter that was Walter Rouse with the pick 55? That's insane. If they take him at 55, no thanks. I just don't think he's a great scheme fit. I feel like he's limited athletically. He is a good run blocker. He goes out there and gives you some effort. But I think when it comes to scheme fits, there's just some guys who are a little too stiff and they need to be more explosive laterally for the Dolphins' offensive scheme. If they went that direction in the later rounds, I wouldn't be that mad about it. There's some good things to work with there. But yeah. I saw that 55. I was crazy. Yeah, 55 is crazy. 55 is crazy. Later on, not so crazy, but it's not I don't think the ideal scheme fit offensively. I think guys though scheme fit wise are Jordan Morgan, Arizona tackle, but teams might see him more of as a guard because of his arm length. But that guy's really good. He knows how to use his hands. He is very nuanced player, and he's super athletic. But that's more of but he's a player that's going to go in between 21 and 55. So yeah, well, that'd be like a trade back or a trade up from 55 type situation if they wanted to go in that direction. I also think they would like Roger Rosengard, who's a guy that could play tackle and guard, but he's kind of been everywhere in the rankings I've seen. I've seen him as a second rounder, a fourth rounder, so I don't know where he ends up going. Could start as a guard. Are you talking about Walter? I think he could. He's probably going to be more of a guard at the next level. I don't know if he would start. Start, probably not the word I'd use, but I do think he might play guard at the next level. What do you think of Patrick Paul? I'm not a Patrick Paul guy personally. He's probably my biggest, as I said earlier in this in the stream. I said he's probably my biggest hell no at 21. That I really don't want him at 21. I think because I've seen that they're like he has the first round hype. I can't get on that. I have Patrick Paul as a third rounder. So it doesn't mean like I hate him and think he's terrible. He's actually a pretty good pass protector. And there's a lot of like about his game, but I just think he's super raw. And I feel like guys of his size, when you get to that size, and I don't feel like he utilizes his length as best he could. He has really elite length. But I just feel like he's very lumbering, slow-footed. He's just not a fit for the Dolphins specifically, which is another thing. Like he's not cutting anyone off. He's not reach blocking. Slow mover in the run game. It's just not my type of player overall. And I feel like, yeah, when you get that tall, it's a leverage game, man. Low man wins. And he's more of a waist bender. Those guys that are really get up there in that size, they have to be super nuanced, understand how to use their hands and, being balanced and all those things. And I don't think he's quite there right now. And there's a lot of players in this class like that. Dude, what happened? I think one of my lines got deleted. I think I had I just noticed I think I had Adisa Isaac on my board, and now I don't see Kingsley Sumatea's name either. That's wild. I gotta figure out which row just got absolutely deleted on my big board because it's just gone. Because I remember Kingsley Sumatea's being next to the Yale guy's name, and his name's just gone too. That is weird. I'll have to fill that in after the stream or figure out what the heck happened there. I like D-tackle Michael Hall Jr. in the second round. Yeah, he's kind of a doorless type, the pass rush disruptor, a little undersized, but he plays with good leverage. And he's a fun, exciting, explosive player to watch. Very quick twitch, explosive. Lots of pass rush upside. Plays with good strength for his size, which is good. Quality hands, good effort. Probably an early round pass rush specialist type. Not just an early first year pass rush specialist, and then can develop, put a little on meat on the bones, come as a full time player. But on this Dolphins team, if they do draft a T tackle, the good thing is they have a lot of bodies there, and they're going to rotate a lot, so they don't have to play a ton of snaps. If they take JPJ, I would like it to be a little more than a few spots if they trade back and take JPJ, because I think JPJ is a second round player and he has the injury stuff. So, if they were to trade back, I would think a little more than a few spots for me. But I love trading back, so I'm all over the trade back train. And I also don't think JPJ would be the worst pick in a trade back. He'd probably be your starting right guard if I had to guess. And I hope we can pick up. Depends how much they would pick up in a trade back. They'd have to trade back a lot, or not a lot, but to pick up a third, they would probably have to trade back, 10-ish spots. If they trade back a few spots, they probably get a fourth or a fifth or something. Depends. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, for Ruki or Horo, if I can ever say his name right. I actually like him. I think he needs to play with a little better of a plan, but he's still pretty new to football, and he needs some better technique. But there's a lot of potential there. You can see some of the power he plays with on some of those plays. Has great length and athleticism, and he has some really good flashes. So I don't mind taking players like that in round 2. I just don't. He'd probably be more of a rotational guy in year 1, and I'm kind of he wouldn't be my priority as a round 2 pick, because I think he probably goes somewhere on day 2. But I don't think it'd be the worst pick in the world. And he does feel like he would fit pretty well within what Weaver's doing. Dude, I'm kind of thrown off by this. Like, where did these guys go? It just got like erased on my Google whatever this is, Google Sheets thing. Like a whole row. I have no idea which players were in those. Maybe it's still there on my laptop, hopefully. It's unfortunate, but we move. Let's see. What are you going, 40 minutes? Okay. Yeah, that's why I'm like really prioritizing getting, and when you look like getting guys that can start right away, they really haven't had any. You got to build your teams through the drafts. When you're looking at it from from a short-term perspective, it obviously very much helps. That's what you're trying to do. But even from a long-term perspective, you're not building your teams through the draft. You start, putting yourself in these tougher situations with the cap, and things can get a little out of hand. And they really did a really good job in 2021 building up a lot of the players on this team. But after that, it's been pretty much HN only. Yeah. But what do you guys think? Like, I would say, yeah, just pick one, or round one and round two. Who do you think's going to be the pick in round one and round two? And then later on, who's your guess for the Dolphins? Because I have some names later on that I think, could end up being some Dolphins. Yeah, the Yale tackle, what do you think? Yeah. I still try. You're giving me all the tough names, man. I'm trying to pronounce. I do have his because for some reason Kingsley's Sumatea's information is just gone. That's ridiculous. Now I have to write new notes on everyone. But yeah, that guy has some ridiculous arm length, man. Like he has all the physical tools that you'd like. But I have him as a third rounder. Like that's kind of, for me, the third rounder is that's where you kind of go on the more project players. For me personally, I like to get 2 starters in round 1 and 2, and then round 3 you go for that type of play. And I feel like he's going to go second round, high upside guy, very raw. He has some inconsistencies with his hands, will over lunge, being a taller guy, but his athleticism is really good. And, also there's the question of the competition that he's facing at Yale, which can always be tough to project those players to the next level. So for me, the Dolphins don't have a third, and I wouldn't use 55 on him. But I do think he'll go in that second round range, and I would understand why a team takes a chance on him because he has a lot of talent. It's just, can he be developed correctly? It probably just ends where, depends where he ends up. But yeah, here's my suit. That is annoying. Because now I know, because I figured out it's Kingsley Sumatea and Adisa Isaac from the edge section, but I don't know who else is missing now from the other ones. I don't remember who was put in those orders. I'm just going to be missing random names now. You're guessing Noon round 1, Sanders round 2? Yeah, I could see it, but I'm going to guess. Is your best guess? I'm going to guess no, though. I would like Noon in round 1. I would be totally down for that. But from the reports I'm seeing, it feels like, and just other things adding up, like Weaver from the Ravens, they never really took D tackle round 1. Just seeing the Noon kind of going later than I'm expecting from reports. So kind of feels like they might go in a different direction besides Noon. And then the Sanders thing could definitely happen. That's what all the reports kind of are pointing towards. But I think that's a smokescreen for my guess. Yeah, everything read, they love Ja'Tavion Sanders. I think it's got to be a smokescreen because I feel like that's the only player we've really heard them that they just love. But what about Mo Kamara, edge from Colorado? I am a big fan of him. I actually am probably making a film breakdown on him on Wednesday because I have film on him, and I'm trying to get out a few more players before the draft actually happens. Let me find him. My notes. Yes, I'm a big fan of him. Good athlete. Love his first step. He has a good, nice pass rush bag to him. Like he uses, multiple different moves to win. He's got a relentless play style. Now he is undersized, which, was probably going to hurt, like why he's going a little bit later than you expect. He's definitely like a sub package rusher early on in his career, but he knows how to really attack that outside half of a guy, use his hands. He's got good feet to really, throw off the tackle's balance. Really like how he combines his hands and his feet in those rounds. Like if he's like a middle roundish guy, that round 4-ish player, I think that's pretty good value for him. And even later than that, it's greater value. I think he can work on doing some like stuff with versus the running game, like setting the edge, and mixing up his pass rush. Like he has a pass rush bag, but I do think he can get a little like set in his ways, trying to do the same move over and over again. I hope so if we trade back, get 3 guys. I love it if we get Fisk, Rosengarten, Sweat. Yeah, I really like Fisk and Rosengarten. I like Sweat's film. Just the off-field stuff has me concerned. But the draft is almost upon us, guys. Thank God. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. You are the man. Thank you. But yeah, I'm just kind of doing random players. I might do a video on Jalen Coger. Mine is going to get his wide receiver Brian Thomas at number 1 and his Yale tackle. That's not a bad guess, Diesel. He'll get his McDaniel gets exactly what he wants. Yeah, he is from Yale. He's got something to consider. I think they might see him as a product because I feel like they like it Marius Mims in round 1, and he's just kind of the more polished version of those round 2 guys that are kind of raw. But yeah, I could see that. If we drafted Xavier Worthy round 1, I'd laugh my ass off but be in pain. Yeah, that one would be a little disappointing for me. It would be like, it's weird because I do like Worthy as a player, but I just don't like where I think he would fit well because, he's kind of in that same vein as a player, but I just don't. I think it would be a reach, one, and I just think kind of if you're going to make a redundant pick, it should be really good value to what you have. And to me, it wouldn't be the best value on the board. He's a second round guy overall. But yeah, I'm not on that. Yeah, dude, he's gonna take some Yale player. There's another Yale player. There's like a receiver from Yale who might be like an undrafted guy. I forget what his name was, but I watched him a little bit. He was pretty fun, and like apparently I could see Mike really liking him. I like the smart offensive lineman. Yeah, I love nuanced players, bro. I love guys that play the game. They do like little subtle things, so you just know that they're super advanced. Like, with receivers, it's in the route stem. It's just like subtle little angles, how they attack things. It's the pace within their route. With offensive linemen, it's like really how they can use their hands. It's like, I love watching like shorter arm length guys being able to like reset their hands, use their hand fighting, attack people's like wrists and elbows because, they got shorter arms, so they have to do it in different ways. Those are some of my favorite players to watch. That really just do like those little things correctly. And that's why I'm like, a lot of these guys, like offensive linemen, when it's like the super developmental guys, I feel like that just doesn't work out a ton. But taking the guys that are, tough nosed, they are very smart, athletic enough, they get the job done. And there's a lot of players in this class that are like the Fatanus of the world. He's super advanced, he's super athletic, plays nasty. He'd be the ideal pick. He does everything that I want. He can play guard and tackle, and that'd be like, number 1 for me. If Fatanu's there, I'm freaking out. I'll freak out when I'm watching the draft on live stream if it's Fatanu. Nuclear engineering degree. I mean, I like me some smart players. They don't even have to be smart they don't even have to have engineering degrees. They just gotta be smart football players. And then be smart off the field, not to do dumb shit. But I don't need to be, I don't need you to be book smart. But yeah, this class is fun. I think DeJean would be fun. Yeah, and when I do the predictive mock on Wednesday, I'll bring up film on all of them. I'll evaluate. Say I think it's gonna be Jared Verse in round 1. We'll watch some Jared Verse film, and then in round 2, I think it's gonna be Christian Haynes. I'll bring up Christian Haynes film, and then so on and so forth. Yeah, Mims. That's what I said earlier because of the title of the video. I think there's some exceptions to what I was saying. I think Mims would be the exception to my take that you need 2 day 1 contributors. I would be for it is Mims because I think you're getting your tackle of the future. That's going to be your tackle for 10 years, and he's very talented. And I actually think, he's less like raw than a lot of the other guys. And he would be good value at 21 if that's your pick. So I would be okay with it. Plus, he would probably also play some games just due to the injuries of the O-line. Like, think how many people got injured last year. But I would be all about that. Are you going to be watching Bill Belichick? Oh, yeah, he's on the Pat McAfee show. I mean, I'm probably just going to be... I don't even know how much I'm going to be listening because I'm going to be like live streaming and talking the whole time. And then I'm probably going to be watching on my laptop as I sit here because I don't have a TV in this room specifically, but because usually I would just watch downstairs in the living room. But I'm going to, live react to at least the first round. And if that goes well and people enjoyed it, then do day 2 and day 3 too, because we can just talk players. I have notes on a lot of players once I figure out where that row went or column, which is annoying, but I have so many players. I have like at least one note on like 30 receivers. And then I'm still going through trying to get notes on some of the later round guys that I haven't had a chance to super dig deep in on yet. Yeah. I think Jalix Hunt is interesting. That Houston Christian edge, late round. He's a guy that, as a developmental guy, I'd take a chance on because he was a safety like 2 years ago. And for a guy who's only been playing edge for 2 years, he has some moves and, he was more refined than I expected. He still needs to, add some things, add some play strength, add more to it, his frame, and be a little more technically refined. But there's length, athleticism he can drop and going to the edge. Is it going to be on YouTube? Yeah, it's going to be just like this. I'll just be streaming live just like this. And I'll basically just talk about draft picks, talk about, who's getting picked, have my notes on them, and then we'll pull up film on guys. And then once we get to the Dolphins pick, we'll really dig deep on whoever they take. And then I'll do the full film breakdown on them the next day. I think ideally we get a tackle the future with guard versatility. Yeah, that's the ideal thing. Like Fatanu, that's why I love the Fatanu pick. Because he's the tackle of the future with a high-level guard ceiling as well to start right away. So you start a guard for you year 1 and then be your left tackle of the future. And I think that's like the ideal scenario is getting something like that. I love that we somehow drafted Christian McCaffrey's brother. Yeah, I have Luke. I think Luke has a very strong chance of being a Dolphin just because I forget who said it on Twitter, but I was reading there like, McDaniel comes from San Francisco where Christian's at. He also grew up, or like he's, around, was a lot in that like Denver area, which where Ed McCaffrey played, Luke's father. And he also just feels like that tough, smart type of player they like. I actually think I'm going to have Luke McCaffrey in my mock. Just if they're going to go receiver in the later rounds, I feel like it could be him. Isn't there some 6'8" guys in this draft? There's a lot of 6'8" tackles or like almost 6'8" tackles. Like, I think Joe Wall is almost 6'8". Amarius Mims is almost fucking 6'8". Tyler Guyton's almost 6'8". I think Patrick Paul is almost 6'8". I think, the BYU and Yale guy are also quite tall. Like a lot of tall tackles, which honestly, once you start getting up there, it's almost a little too tall. You got to be able to play with a little better leverage. That's why a lot of those guys end up actually struggling. But yeah. To me, if not Troy Fatanu, I will wait until the second round and grab Haynes or BB. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to go. That's why, I think, they could go Barden day 1. I feel like the only true interior guy they would go at day 1 is Barden, but I still don't know if it's going to happen. And then day 2, I'm trying to think of guards. Yeah, Christian Haynes would be my first guard. Let me scroll down the list. Yeah, Haynes would be my first guard. I think BB is also a day 2 guard. I just don't know if he's the ideal scheme fit, but I feel like they would like him. Yeah, Johnny Wilson is 6'7". That's the receiver you're probably thinking of from Florida State. They also might move him to tight end. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And then some other guys I like. I like Christian Mahogany, but he might be more. I think he's a good scheme fit, and he's a fun player. But he might be more of a late day 2 or late round 2, early day round 3 type. But I do like him a lot. There's a handful of names at guard I like on day 2, so that's why I could see them holding off. Like maybe even trade back if I'm 55. 6'7", 230 pounds. Yeah. Johnny Wilson. My only problem with Johnny Wilson is he has a lot of talent and he's quite quick for his size, which is good quickness. And he can create some separation that way. But when you're a big body receiver, you have to be really strong at the catch point in contested situations. And I feel like, to me, when you see a bigger body, and I'm like, you're not going to separate as much at the next level just against NFL level talent. You have to be able to make big, tough catches. And I feel like he didn't. He had a lot of drops that I saw in those scenarios. It's the same. It's like the complete opposite problem for small receivers. Small receivers, if you're not a separator, you're not going to make it at the next level. And if you're a guy that's also a separator, but they can make tough catches as a small guy, then you are going to be a beast. You have both going for you. Mims to me is too big. I feel like Mims outside of like Joe Wall is like the way I feel like he's really well built. I feel like some of the other guys are like too tall up, or like play with too high pad level. I feel like Mims to me is the one that could work out for the taller guys. Right tackle? No. Who played right guard opposite? You mean right tackle? Blake Fisher. I like Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher is one of the round 2 tackles that I actually like. I feel like most of the round, or not, he might go round 3, but the day 2 tackles that I like. I feel like most of the tackles, I was not, like when I was watching the day 2 tackles, I was like, oh, they're super raw, or like they're nasty run game guys, but they're not very athletic. Blake Fisher to me is like a kind of a mix of that. I have notes on him actually, yeah. But he's explosive in his side. He's played both right tackle and left tackle, so he has that versatility. He's technically refined with his hands. He knows how to use his length. Pretty flexible too. He like resets his hands, does a lot of the little things nicely. Pretty smart too on twist and stunts. And he'll go out there and bully some linebackers to the second level. I think he lacks some leg drive in the running game though, when he's going like head to head versus like bigger, D ends, D tackles, things like that, base blocking. And then in pass protection, I don't think he has the greatest anchor. But there's some good things to like about Blake Fisher's game if you're going for a day 2 tackle. Luke's brother. Oh, yeah. I think it's his brother. Is it Max? It might be Max. But yeah, I think he's also around. They could definitely be interested in Luke. I think I'm going to put Luke as like one of the 6th round options because I think he could be there. And I think if he was, they'll be interested. Who played right? I already read that. You meant right tackle. Yeah. Right tackle at Notre Dame. Yeah, that's Blake Fisher. He played left tackle, got hurt, and all took his job. Well, yeah. Joe Wall is, one of the best players in this class. That guy's really, really good. That's one of the 6'8" guys that will work out because he plays with some very good balance for his size. Usually when you're not that size, man, it's hard to be a really good mover, but then also be like, because a lot of like Tyler Guyton, very good mover, but just doesn't know what he's doing out there, like with his hands. Consistency, he bends at the waist a lot, gets over lunged, balance issues, and those things, you can teach and learn from them, but it's gonna be tough. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, safety. There's a lot of safeties in this class I feel like they could go after. Have you rated Zach Zinter, Michigan, 5th rounder? I probably have him as like a 5th rounder. For me, when it comes to Zinter, I actually like Zinter's film. If I can find him. Is Zinter the one that got taken away in the guard section? It might have been him. Dude, he was the one that got taken away on that guard section, isn't it? Okay, but I remember enough about Zach Zinter. I don't have to read the notes. But yeah, I think this is kind of the problem with all the Michigan offensive linemen this year is they're all not super athletic. And to me, there's like a level of athleticism you have to be to play in the Dolphins offense specifically. I think for other schemes, I think he could have a really solid career in other teams. But I think for the Dolphins specifically, he doesn't fit in. He's very limited, but he definitely plays nasty, very smart, intelligent player. And I enjoyed watching his film, but I didn't think he was the greatest fit for Miami. Let me start typing some of these names down here, man, because I'm just losing players' names. I think it's, I don't know how I got it. Sumatea, Zach Center, and Edge. It was Adisa Isaac. And for some reason, the notes just got destroyed. Who do you think could come into Wilkins' role year and have an immediate impact? Personally, I see Noon as the most likely. Yeah, probably Noon. Braden Fisk is a very explosive, high motor, one gapping type. I think him and Wilkins are a little bit different though, because Wilkins could definitely be more of a two gapper, hold his point at the point of attack, hold his own at the point of attack. The other round two guys are kind of a little more raw and probably need a little development, like Chris Jenkins and Ruki Ohoro, like I said. I can see Dorless probably filling that pass rush role that Wilkins had, but not the run defense role. Same with Michael Hall, pass rush role. I think we use one of our thirds next year to move up with our fifth this year for Cole Bishop. I mean, would be interesting, and I love Cole Bishop, and I think Cole Bishop would fit this scheme very well and be that third safety for the Dolphins. So if they went with the Cole Bishop direction, I'm about it. I don't know if that'd be exactly how they do it. Maybe I could also see him going in the second round. To be honest, not a huge Byron Murphy guy. I think he profited a lot from playing next to Sweat. He probably did profit from playing next to Sweat. I do like Byron Murphy a lot though. I don't think he's the top defensive player in the draft, like I saw some people saying today, but I do think he's a really good athlete. Great first step. And I also think the Texas defensive scheme kind of held Murphy back at times, though. They didn't allow him to truly just get upfield and go, because that guy is super explosive. When he really just got to go, he was very good. I'd rather Jaden Hicks. I like Jaden Hicks a lot too from Washington State. I actually got more film on Jaden Hicks today that I'm going to watch, because I had only seen a little bit of Jaden Hicks, and I'm excited to watch more of that. And I might make a video on him. But yeah, they both kind of fill that big nickel role. They could fit into that big nickel role. I think the reason I like Bishop a little bit more is I think Bishop can play more man-to-man in the slot. But Hicks has some really good size, physicality, loves to hit, versatility. He's definitely could play more of the box than Bishop, but great ball skills, smooth in his pedal, instinctive. I could still see him being playing a dime linebacker at times. He's good at taking on blocks, avoiding blocks too. I think when it comes to man, he looks a little more uncomfortable, less fluid. And as I say with safeties, when it comes to safety play, they got to do two of the three. There's playing deep, like single high, middle of the field coverage, or just playing as a deep safety, split field looks, playing down in the box, and then being able to play in the slot. And they both can do at least two of those three things. Well, I don't think you're to see Hicks playing a ton on the back end, or a ton in the slot, but he can do some work in the back end and play down in the box very well. Bishop can do a little bit of all three. Like a Daydream Taylor Demerson can play in the slot and deep, but not really play much in the box. Oh, I like Evan Williams as a later round guy. He was really fun to watch too. He's a dog. The first thing I written down, absolute dog. Loves the physicality. He was a great blitzer. That guy gets after it. Good recognition skills. He has some burst to his game. He's a big nickel type. I don't know if he's going to play a bunch of deep safety, but he also just seems like a special teams player. I think he needs to work on his consistency with his tackling technique, limited speed wise, length wise. So he has his physical limitation, athletical limitations, but he goes out there and absolutely plays to the fullest. And he's a fun watch for sure. If he's a late round guy, I'm not mad about it, because I think he's solid depth and a fun special teams player for your team. I like the safety class a lot. There's a lot of dogs in this class. A lot of fun players to watch that can do different things. Some do-it-all, some guys who are more slots. He is kind of a Brandon Jones replacement. That's a good shout. There's Malik Mustafa, Malik Mustafa is old school. I made a video on him the other day. Old school physicality, man. That guy goes out there and just hits people. He's a tackler. He best tackling safety in the class. Maybe the best tackler in the class, period. But he's not a super, cover guy. He can do some underneath zone stuff. Plays with good awareness there. but he's pretty. Patrick Paul has some length. Oh, Patrick Paul definitely. He's got the size to him for sure. Let's start over under for Luke McCaffrey. I say he goes under pick 140. Oof. Maybe I'm trying to think. I might have said yes in years past or under on years past, but this receiver class, is so good. How many receivers can go before pick 140? It's probably a good over-under spot on him, though. I might say over just because I'm hoping he goes over that. But I'd probably say over because in years past, I could say under just because, the name, and I probably would have him rated around that area, but I'm going to say over just because the class is so good and he is a limited athlete. He's just not the most explosive guy out there. He's tough, smart, has some really good catches, man. That guy makes a lot of tough catches, and I got to give him credit for that, but yeah. I really don't know what happened. Say before 140, but I hope over. 140 is probably a pretty good guess. Because what 140 is like around like that fourth, fifth. I'm gonna say over, but we'll see. See how it plays out. There's always some surprises, man. Usually, I watch so many prospects, and even guys that I haven't watched, I usually hear of in the draft. But then there's like some random pick in round 3, and I look at so many lists of names, and on Twitter, and you just see names. Follow a bunch of draft people. So and then they'll be like, the Patriots took someone in round 3 that I've never heard of, which is crazy. You're saying he's not as talented as CMC? CMC is probably a better receiver than his brother, and he's a running back. But Luke is a dog. I do like Luke a lot. He's just, it's the athleticism that's going to make him go late, and I do think the Dolphins like him a lot. Like, he does not have that vertical speed and explosiveness. His route running, and he's new to the position though, which I think limits. Like, he's still learning some of the route running techniques and things like that. Manipulations. But he's tough and he's probably has some of the best catches that I've seen in this class. I think Jermaine Burton's film is really good. The off-field stuff also concerns me with Burton. Burton's probably one of the weird ones because I think in a normal wide receiver class, I'd be like, yeah, I'd take a chance on Burton. But with how stacked the wide receiver class is, I don't think you have to take the chance on Burton as early this year. I'd probably let him drop a little bit, but he is very, very good. I've been a fan of Jermaine Burton's film for years. Even when he was on Georgia, I was a fan of Jermaine Burton. I remember I made a video on him like 3 or 4 years ago. Film breakdown. Back when I didn't even know what I was talking about. Or I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't know how to talk in the videos. But that guy is really, he understands like the micro movements of the game, like the subtle movements that you make with your body to sell routes. Good speed. He's good on all 3 levels. Like, he's a really good vertical threat too, which is important. Separates, has solid hands. And I do think, Alabama definitely held him back. Specifically, the quarterback play held him back. I wouldn't know if it was like scheme specific, but yeah. And I don't think he has the greatest play strength either. But the off-field is worrisome when it comes to Burton. But has great film. To me, in a stacked wide receiver class, you just let some other team take the chance on that. Because I'd rather just go and take another stud receiver who's either maybe around that same level but doesn't have that off-field worries. Because, man, this class is legit. I'm going to look through and see who's just gone. Yeah. Any more, last minute questions? Or, anything you guys want to talk about? If not, then I might end it here. Well, I won't probably stream again on Wednesday doing the prediction mock. And I will be still posting film breakdowns every single day. I will probably post 2 breakdowns tomorrow, one on Wednesday with the stream, and then I will probably just do another one on Thursday right before the draft, and then I'll stream the draft. And then after and then starting from Thursday, probably starting Friday, there will be day 2 of the draft, but then I will post a video on whoever the Dolphins drafted, breaking it down, his scheme, his fit into the specific scheme, and then so on and so forth for the rest of it. Who's the closest thing to Reek in this draft? No one. I mean, like talent-wise, Marvin Harrison Jr. is the closest talent-wise, but as a player, they're very different players. Honestly, I feel like people are going to say Xavier Worthy. I'll just say Neighbors because Neighbors is super athletic, but I don't think anyone's really close to Tyreek. Honestly, in this class, I would have Waddle ranked above everyone except probably Marvin Harrison Jr. I have Peyton Wilson as linebacker 1, purely based on film. I don't know I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what the injury stuff looks like, but purely based on film, I have Peyton Wilson. And yeah, I do think I do have some concerns with Edger and Cooper as well. I think there's some good things to like about his game, but let me see what I wrote down. He's a great blitzer, great downhill player, but I would like to see a guy that's not the biggest. I would like to see him be a little better in coverage. He didn't really impress me there. Play with better pad level, utilize his make length more. Wait, but damn. Wait, what do you say? Thanks, Ryder. Hey, you're welcome. But thank you guys for watching. Did you see Reek being good pre-draft? Honestly, I was definitely watching the draft at that time, but I don't think I really watched him that much before the draft. So I don't think I really broke down his film, so I can't really say. There's some players that I've been right about, some players I've been wrong about for sure. The player I remember the 2017 draft. I was on a heater in that draft. I had Patrick Mahomes as a top 5 player, which turns out I was even too low. Like even when Mahomes was seen as like a second round guy earlier in the process, I had Mahomes super high. So Mahomes was probably my biggest hit. I had Alvin Kamara as a top 15 player. He went in the 3rd round. Those are probably my biggest hits. Who's my biggest misses? Biggest misses? Probably Josh Allen, quarterback for the Bills. I didn't think Josh Allen was going to be good, and he's been quite good. So your linebacker 1, Cedric Gray. I mean, there's some positives to his game. I don't love the linebacker class, so like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's plenty of players. Interesting. Listening to rankings versus RL past draft. Listening to rankings. I'm trying to think what. Okay. But yeah. I also had, I think the 2017 draft was also Budda Baker with like Jamal Adams and Malik Hooker. And I had Budda Baker as my safety 1, which turned out he's had the best career out of those 3. That was probably my best draft rankings year. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Real life. Obviously. I thought it was like a initials for like a name or something. That's funny. Charles Harris was probably my least favorite pick the Dolphins have ever made. As I said, I was cooking in the 2017 draft. I don't remember exactly because I think back then I wasn't like doing like super rankings. I was watching a bunch of film, but I wasn't like ranking everyone out. But I did not like Charles Harris at all. Yeah, like what happened versus your expectations. Yeah, it's always interesting to look back. It helps you learn. You're not going to be right about everyone. There's definitely players I've been wrong about. But hey, Charles Harris, not a fan of at all. Never was. His film was really, really not good. I don't know what we were thinking that year. Every other 1st round pick, I could at least understand. Even Igbenogany. Okay, Igbenogany was a reach. But even like players like Austin Jackson, Igbenogany, who I thought were reaches in those drafts. Austin Jackson's worked out, so kudos to him. But even then, I could understand there was some upside there. Charles Harris wasn't even that athletic, so I didn't understand it. I didn't like the John Holland pick. My biggest miss ever, probably. Nice. I think the 2021 was another big probably hit for me because I loved all the receivers that went top 3, but I loved Waddle. Jalen Phillips was my edge 1, so I loved that pick. I really liked Holland. So I loved him. And then when the Dolphins picked Eichenberg, I wanted either my top two picks that I wanted were Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, the linebacker for the Browns, who I feel like has been pretty good, and Creed Humphrey. So that was probably pretty good for me. I'm trying to think of the class, like the what QB class was with Josh Allen. I was kind of right in that class. I had Lamar Jackson as my QB1, so I was pretty right about Lamar being very good. But I had Baker as my number 2. I didn't like Rosen or Darnold, which was right, but I really didn't like Josh Allen, who I was definitely wrong about. Do you think they re-signed Holland? Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I was thinking about this, right? When you're looking at the Dolphins draft class, right? The reason they didn't sign like Christian Wilkins, and Robert Hunt, who were from the 2019 draft, 2020 draft, is because they needed to sign this 2021 draft class. So usually you have to look at the future too. But since the Dolphins didn't really pick in 2022 and 2023, I think they're going to be able to re-sign everyone from that class, like at least the top 3 guys, with Waddle, Phillips, Holland. I think they'll have the means to do it. They don't have to think too much about the future. That's why I think they need to start hitting on these picks. It's so important this year. But yeah, I think they definitely have the means to re-sign all of those players now, and should be fine. And by the time they're going to start signing those guys within the next year or two, they'll be out of some other contracts like Bradley Chubb, possibly even like Tyreek, things like that. So it'll be interesting. Is Holland really that good? Holland he was really good year 1, definitely a better fit in the previous system, and he's still been pretty good. I think, maybe not as elite, but he's definitely been good. He's definitely been our best safety. Plus, when it comes to safety plays, scheme is so important, like with how involved you're going to be. He's going to be very important in this new scheme because they're going to be playing a lot of 3 safety sets. And look how impactful Kyle Hamilton was for the Ravens, and even players that weren't Kyle Hamilton, like Geno Stone, they all made impact plays. So I'll be excited to see how they use safeties this year with Holland and Jordan Poyer, and then whoever they possibly add on the draft to be that third guy, or are they going to go with different looks here? Potentially, that's why I'm kind of for the Cooper DeJean pick, because Cooper DeJean could be your third safety, could also be your nickel player, could even play outside certain weeks if they want to bump Ramsey inside as your corner, be like a star role player. Be very, very fun to watch how they use the defensive secondary. Plus, I'm also a fan of Cam Smith. I actually liked Cam Smith's film a lot last year. We'll see if that ends up working out or not. Yeah, because I really liked Achane too. Achane's definitely worked out. Cam has not quite reached that level. The other ones were super late guys that you don't have a ton of faith in them. And then we'll see if Tyndall or Ezukama ever end up working out. I feel like Ezukama can find a role. I'm not quite sure on Tyndall. It's kind of his last chance this year, honestly. Yeah. Been pretty fun. This draft is very important. Got to hit on this. And then next year will be also extremely important, which at least they have more picks. Like next year, they got their picks, right? I'm not mistaken. I think they have first, second, and they'll have multiple thirds with the comp picks. They're not getting their picks stolen anymore, taken away from them for the whole, because of Stephen Ross meeting with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. Thank God. I like Ethan Boner. I like Ethan Bonner too. I actually think Bonner could work out. There's some potential there for sure. I don't know if it'll end up working out, but I think he came in and made some tough plays. At least fun for depth. I kind of like the defensive back room that we have. Spelling? But yeah. I gotta go figure out this thing, because for some reason, at least on this computer, they were just taken away. I don't know how that happened. That's tough. Okay. Thank you guys for watching.